there's got to be a way to stop Donald Trump from using our political and legal system to destroy our political and legal system. And there has been some talk now about how to do that. Two legal scholars who are very well known, William Baude and Michael Paulson are the two. And they have written a lengthy piece about how to get rid of this son of a bitch for once and for all. Short of assassination, nobody would recommend that. But what they're talking about is paragraph 3 of the 14th Amendment, as we've all heard now. I think we've all heard. I know I've heard it over and over and over again. The third paragraph 3 of the 14th Amendment bars anyone who has either participated directly, indirectly, or given aid or comfort to people who want to overthrow the government of the United States, which is exactly what Trump and his filthy maggots tried to do on January 6th and will continue to try to do. We'll try to do it after the next election. They will try to do it until a squad of Marines is sent to clean out the nest of these snakes and make them disappear. But there's a better way to do it, much better way to do it. Just use paragraph 3 of the 14th Amendment to declare that Trump is ineligible for his activities to overthrow our government. Now, this article by Baude and Michael Paulson, who are both legal scholars, they're very well known in those circles. They wrote this in a law review article. Also, former Judge Michael Luttig and Lawrence Tribe, Professor Emeritus of Law at, at Yale? I can never get them straight. But these two, and Luttig was a well-known conservative. He was the one that testified at the January 6th committee hearings, and he talked very, very slowly. And I know that was very frustrating to people who were watching or listening. It certainly was to me, but there was a reason for it. But Luttig is an arch-conservative, and he has made it clear that what Trump has done should, by the rules of our Constitution, prohibit him from running for any public office, certainly not the presidency. So, in a very short time, this group of four, three of whom are very conservative, have driven home the implications of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And that section is that all officials with a role in the election process must consider disqualifying the son of a bitch from the 2024 ballot if they find, and this is according to the 14th Amendment, quote, either he engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the Constitution or gave aid and comfort to the enemies of that Constitution. Now, honest to God, come on. I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, but do you have any doubt that this is precisely, specifically, and exactly what Trump did? Of course not. Now, according to Jennifer Rubin, writing at the New York Times, secretaries of state around the country have heard what these legal scholars have said, and they've heard it loud and clear. The Secretary of State of Michigan, Jocelyn Benson, when she was on MSNBC, emphasized her plan to consider the issue only from the basis of applicable law without partisan considerations, and that concerns should be expressed that this issue could become weaponized in future elections, end quote. That's the problem when you have within your society, within your culture, within your country, as we now do, rats, vermin, scum, who would use any aspect of the U.S. Constitution as a weapon against due process, against the law, against the guarantees and prohibitions of the U.S. Constitution. Some of them are now in prison. They all should go to prison. You know what my solution is. I made it very clear to people who commit treason against your country. There are ways to change things if you want to change things. It's an arduous, long slog to do it, but it was designed that way. So if you're going to use violence or the threat of violence or disruption or dislocation or insurrection or treason to get your way, well, up against the wall, bastard. I mean, for real. So, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson also indicated that she would be conferring with secretaries of state here in Georgia, in Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Good luck here, Ms. Benson, but who knows? And she also recognized that whatever she and other secretaries of state decide, this issue obviously is going to make its way to the Supreme Court for a final determination. Wouldn't that be fun? To listen to the audio recordings of how this would be presented to the august justices. Now, as Jennifer points out, additionally, New Hampshire Secretary of State David Scanlon, who's a Republican, he said recently, quote, when somebody makes a reasoned argument against what those provisions in the 14th Amendment really mean, I feel an obligation to at least listen to them. A decision of that magnitude, that's a decision of deciding that somebody is not qualified to run, is extraordinary. And it really has to be treated with that degree of importance, end quote. Well, absolutely. That's why this should be openly discussed right now. Not just being presented in legal journals or in magazine pieces by people who are very, very bright, even though some of them have political points of view that, I wouldn't necessarily agree with. But this allegedly, supposedly, is about the law, not about politics. It's about the meaning of the Constitution. It's not about how one interprets from the left or the right what the Constitution is, but the absolute meaning of the Constitution. And I think the 14th Amendment, paragraph 3, is clear as a glass of tap water. I mean, there's no ambiguity there. There's no, well, if the comma were put over there, it would be different. Well, they've got and instead of or. There's none of that shit going on. So that attitude of taking a look at the 14th Amendment and applying it to what this treasonous son of a bitch, that's what I call him, the orange bastard, what he has done, what he has promoted, what he has advocated for. Take a look at all of it, secretaries of state. And it shouldn't just be the secretaries of state who take a look at this. It should be all other officials like state electors, governors, anyone who's in a position of elective decision-making should read this, take a look at what Trump has done, listen to the evidence, look at his actions, listen to what he said, and then decide. So, as Jennifer points out, the first step has got to be a recognition that the 14th Amendment is relevant. And it has to be honored by anyone who takes an oath to defend the Constitution, which would be, if I'm not wrong, every member of the armed forces, every office holder in this country, I think all the way down to city mayors. Is that right? And as the arch-conservative Luttig and the liberal Tribe wrote, quote, they wrote a piece together too, quote, Section 3 is no anachronism or relic from the past. Rather, it applies with the same force and effect today as it did the day it was ratified, as does every other provision, clause, and word of the Constitution that has not been repealed or revised by amendment. End quote. That also, is it not, gentle listener, isn't that clear? Clear as a bell to me, or clear as a glass of tap water. So now, as Jennifer points out, now what secretaries of state and other officials who are involved in the elective process in this country, what they have to grapple with is how do they make the determination that Trump has no goddamn business running for anything. He is a filthy, treasonous, grifting enemy of the U.S. Constitution. Jennifer asked this question, does state law require that these secretaries of state and other officials obtain a ruling from the state attorney general or other legal officials? Or do they conduct open hearings to provide transparency and educate voters? Those are two essential questions. Because if it's not done in a proper way, you know how the scum, the filth in this country, the maggots and the Marjorie Taylor bitches and the rest of these people, you know how they're going to scream and threaten and demand that the 14th Amendment is no longer applicable, especially not in this case. So it has to be done in a very open and transparent manner. Huh? The truth is, there are no easy answers to any of this shit because we've never had to deal with a bum, a scum, a grifting bastard destroyer like Donald Trump, who wants to be president again. And again, as Jennifer points out, even though Trump is not yet the Christian Fascist Party nominee, it'd be stupid, my word, not hers, stupid not to prepare for, well, some people say the likelihood, come on, for the obvious reality that primary voters in this filthy death cult, the Christian fascists, they will nominate again their vicious cult leader. They want somebody like this. They want the Antichrist. It validates their entire bloody religion. They don't realize that, but that's the truth of it. According to me. Of course it's according to me. What do I know? The Christian demons are determined. Nothing in their little twisted simian brains, nothing is going to stop them. That's what they think. But my hope is they have a big surprise coming. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.